Hi guys, and welcome back to GuardCube. In today's video, I'm going to tell you my top 10 tips for memorization in blindfolded solving, and I came up with a few of them myself, so I really hope there will be some new ones here and that it will be helpful. Let's get straight into it with tip number 1. Okay, so first up we have the order of blind solving. So you should always start by memorizing corners, then memorizing edges, then executing edges, then finally executing corners. The reason for this order is to do with the different types of working memory. In blind solving, it all happens in a fairly short period of time, of between 30 seconds to 15 minutes, so you won't be using long-term memory, but you will be using short-term memory for corners and sensory memory for edges. When you memorize corners, you actually need to remember the information and store it in short-term memory to recall later during execution. And as corner memo is shorter than edges memo, this is the thing we're actually going to memorize. It's easier. And then for edges, we're going to do something really easy. We don't actually need to memorize it. We just store it briefly as echoic memory, which means sound memory, and it's a form of sensory memory. And we just store it right at the top of our brain. And we do this by just repeating the letter sounds over and over again. And so it ingrains this audio into our heads. And that's how we remember it. And then we just repeat that again during execution. So don't have to waste time getting edge memo actually into our brain. We just keep it right at the surface. Secondly, we've got edge flips and corner twists. So for edge flips and corner twists, it might be tempting to actually memorize a pair that will solve that, such as AM for one corner twist for edge flip. However, this makes your memo more complex and a lot longer. So it's better to, for corner twists, just remember which piece is twisted and then what the U or D color is. So in this example, UFR with red on top. And for edge flips, just remember which piece is flipped, so UR here. The reason for this is that remembering it separately helps it stand out, and so it's a lot easier to recall, and it makes your actual memo shorter. My third tip, which I find really helpful, is to use other languages. So for really difficult pairs, such as ones involving X and Q, it's often useful to use words from a different language, where these letters are more common. I personally know French, some German, and a fair amount of Latin, and I also think Chinese and Spanish can be very helpful. Some examples are que or que for French and Spanish, and also quam for Latin. There are loads of words beginning with Q in Latin, so that can be really helpful. And then in Chinese, X sounds, so I think this is pronounced shi, and so some people do use SH instead of X. Number 4 is to make new cycles easy. What I mean by this is to have a few targets that you will always go to whenever you have a new cycle. Therefore, if you do have a new cycle, you know what targets you're going to, and therefore there's less confusion, and you don't actually have to remember where your new cycle goes. For M2 edges, I recommend A, first of all, as it's just a swapper, so you just have to do M2. If that's unavailable, then either B or D are both great, as they both are sexy move setups on right hand and left hands. And then either DLR and X are good for old Pockman for similar reasons, edges. And then for old Pockman corners, V is a swapper, so that's really good. And then locations that you can cancel into easily, such as T at the back, M, which is just a Y perm, or J. But really anything that can be set up with one move, and there are quite a lot of these for corners. The fifth tip is my alternative for difficult X pairs. So I don't actually like to use X, so what I do is swap it with Z, which is really handy as Z doesn't actually exist in the SPEF's lettering scheme. So instead of awkward pairs like XO or XT, you can have ZOO and ZIT, and there are many more, Zap, Zoom, Zen, etc. Number 6 is to stick to one syllable. It's a very simple thing, but using basic monosyllabic words will make your memo easier, especially for edges, as when you repeat it over and over again in your mouth to get the audio memory into your head, it will flow much easier, whereas multi-syllable words may break this flow and stop you from being able to keep an easy rhythm going. So keep the flow and keep a strong rhythm during edge memo by not using two-syllable words, or more where possible. My 7th tip is to make memorable images for corners. As discussed earlier, you do have to actually remember the information for corners, and it's not very quick or easy to just store in your memory random words and letter pairs, whereas a picture that represents these is a lot more memorable. So let's take the example WD, VW, NU, CU. Wad, Vow, Nui, Copper. So these can seem very apart and random at first, so let's make an image with them. So I would start by visualizing a wad of money. Out of this comes some wedding vows. Then a Nui ice cream falls out. And finally, a copper coin comes out. So this bizarre and quite odd image is a lot easier to remember than specific letter pairs. And then you can just translate this back into letter pairs when you execute. It's important to make these funny, bizarre, as then they are more memorable. Number 8 is another idea that you could use for specific difficult cases, and it's to use element symbols from the periodic table. You have already seen this for copper in my previous tip, which is a really useful one. Also things like Xe, xenon, and in general where you have a consonant followed by a vowel, you can use this. La for lanthanum or Se for selenium. It can be an easier way to make difficult pairs stand out. My 9th tip is to use the PAO technique. So what does PAO mean? It means person, action, object. And it's mainly used for corners, either as an alternative to picture memorization or to help you make a picture. So you need to have a person, a celebrity or someone close to you, a verb that they're going to do, and an object, so a noun that they're going to do this to. So let's take the example BJ, HL, PF. Boris Johnson holds puffins. So this would seem quite random at first, but actually you can make quite an amusing image out of it in your head by using the PAO technique. Finally, I'm really sorry to be boring, guys. I have to say it though, it's a really boring final tip. It's the most crucial, it's the most important of all. You just have to practice loads. The more you practice, the quicker you'll identify stickers, form letter pairs, and memorize them. And you'll also be able to move through and trace the pieces quicker. And if you don't practice fast Memo, your blind solves will never be very quick, because even if you executed really quickly, your Memo is still crucial. And if you want to be someone like Jack Kai, then he has really quick Memo, so that's really important to become a top blind solver. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Keep practicing, keep working on your blind solving, and if you did like it, then please do like and subscribe to my channel. I try and release 2 videos a week, and I put a lot of effort in. This video was quite challenging, and I've spent plenty of time, so thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and share it with other blindfolded solvers if you really did like it. Bye, guys.